Happy to give the community development update. We are in Node 6 development as we speak, making good progress on the release. For me personally, I am working on planning out the remainder of the work for Mercury and adding items to the sprint backlogs. We have exactly 7 sprints to go before we launch. So that's a bit of a, oh my God, freak out moment. But yeah, so we're about 2/3 through the project if we think we're at sprint 13 and there's 7 more to go out of 20. Given the calendar and RCon 3 and other mitigating factors, that's about what we're looking at. Into the individual updates, Rolang team, we have cut a PR for the proof of stake contract on the blockchain. We've got some work we're doing with RSpace and clearing out the replay portion of RSpace and making sure that we're getting the correct Genesis block. We're also enhancing locally free, so it tracks at what's locally free at the outermost level. And so we've got a minor issue in that it doesn't match properly in a pattern with a locally free variable. And we discovered that as we were implementing matches expression. We have cost accounting in the reducer and substitution logic merged, and we're currently working on the matcher. And the matching portion is mostly done. We're focusing on some tests. And we're finding non-determinism bugs inside of Casper, in the logic of Casper. So our focus really has been in knocking those all out. The integration test suite has done a fantastic job in bringing those to bear. And Kent and Mike now have somewhere in the order of 650 blocks in their private test net that they're working with to try to isolate these bugs and flush them out. Over to Node team. This week's community node testing was very fruitful, and we were able to, reproduce one of the non-deterministic bugs that we had seen in integration tests. So that showed up in the node testing. And we were able to demonstrate a remote server calling a contract. So one of the testers called Michael Birch's server and called to deploy that way. So that was very cool. And we are working on an in-memory implementation for block storage. So we're going to start, since the blocks are currently in memory, we're going to implement block storage in memory and then eventually build the logic to shunt it to disk. And we're also creating a configuration file for our node. There's a lot of command line parameters that you can pass in when you run our node. And what we're going to do is enable users to create a config file that will read in all those startup options. So we're not having to deal with a runtime on the command line, all the options you want to run your node. So that will be a very nice usability feature. And our node now prints a Git version at startup. So this is also a very nice usability feature to make sure, for example, during node testing, that everyone is running the exact same version of the node. So that's very beneficial. And we've had some Heuss bugs crop up as a result of version incompatibility. The Roscala team is working on the Rosette object import. And we have started having some of the import work successfully. We discovered that there's some situations where there's a loop happening. So we need to just clean up the import so that we reference that this object was already imported and no need to import it again. And this is happening with the meta and parent objects. And we are creating tests for enabled set, and we continue to make progress on parallel execution. Website, we've updated the website with the RNode user guide and installation information for RNode.5. We released that on Monday. We've also updated the Rolang tutorial as of last week's release of RNode.5, and this includes new examples and clarifications. And there's a new Rolang document on clarifications on pattern matching is now available. I encourage you to take a look at that. It'll help shed some light on these structure and semantics of the Rolang language. And call for validators. We are looking for validators to participate in the launch of the testnet during RCon 3. Please go visit the validator dev site. We also have, we introduced Phil for the incentivized testnet last week. So please do catch Phil on Discord. Go ahead and read the document for the incentivized testnet. We are looking for people to participate in the competitions as well. So there might be some interesting opportunities to get some bounties as part of the incentivized testnet. So please do participate on that front as well. RCon 3, we're looking for volunteers who are in Berlin and are able to attend local tech meetups. And what we're looking for is grassroots, mouth to mouth, word of mouth communication rather on the event. We hear that that's the best way to get the word out. So we're looking for, if you're in Berlin and you attend meetups locally, we're looking for you to get the word out and volunteer at the conference. And registration is open. So early bird registration is made before July 31st and a special rate for students. That's all for my update. I'll open up for questions.
Well, this is great progress, Meta. I really, I know that you guys hit a few bugs and pulled out all the stops to knock out the ones that were preventing Node 5. So I really appreciate the work to make sure that went out. And this looks like a really good place to be at this point in the project. It's very impressive that we're still able to, with all of the work that's going on, to continue to make progress without a lot of hindrance from design decisions that weren't quite well thought out. So very, very glad about that.
Yeah, it is. I mean, if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, from the interpreter for a brand new language to having the entire blockchain semantics and the consensus algorithm up and running, it really is very impressive. If people recall, in January we didn't have anything. I mean, our January release was the C++ Rosette VM and the legacy compiler that we cleaned up. That was our January 31st, no less. And here we are in July, and we are now dealing with some of the nuanced non-deterministic bugs in the blockchain, but all the way from all the tremendous work that the storage team has done building that tuple space out and really, bringing to bear the architecture. It's profound, actually, if you think of it as software development projects go. I don't know if for those of you that haven't worked in software engineering projects, doing a greenfield project of this magnitude and the progress you have made really it's quite rare to see.
By the way, I have to mention that I've had this happen once or twice before, and one of the biggest milestones was BizTalk. We began from nothing, and again using the formal methods approach coupled with agile and experienced software development, we were able to get something out the door that was a brand new SKU for Microsoft and get it out in record time by comparison to what they were used to releasing. And that went on to be, one of their flagship products. So, as surprising and amazing as it is, the methodology really works. So yeah, this is really good. I'm delighted to see the progress. So moving right along, unless there are any other questions or comments about the tech update.
Hey, Greg, I just want to queue up a question. This is Ed. About the business plan for validators. I'm speaking to a validator potential this afternoon and would like a bit of commentary just so I make sure I have the latest update for them.
I will be talking about the prospectus focus group and where we are with all of that after we hear updates from the two venture arms.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, it's on the roadmap for today's discussion. So with that, perfect segue. Let's hear from Pythia and then from Reflective.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thanks for that, Greg. It's an exciting week. I won't repeat Ed's request. We did meet, though, with a large miner from Eastern Washington, so they're really eager to get specs. And so I've reached out to Deanna and Kelly on that. We have 4 companies in final stages of contract signing, which we'll announce as soon as possible. A 5th in in the due diligence phase, so look for those updates shortly. We are headed to Vancouver, BC tomorrow, where are 5 companies that have been lined up for us. So we're really excited to see the Vancouver, BC ecosystem. For those of you who don't know, is nearly as good as Seattle's, and from all of the various tech companies coming up there. So it's really good. And they've set up a focus meeting with Ernst & Young for us to hear what they're doing in the space. So we're able to introduce RChain into that ecosystem, which I think is going to be really exciting. At another follow-up meeting following the trip to Eastern Washington, planning for blockchain training there in Rolang. So I know that there's a lot of good material that's being produced, and I can follow up with someone offline, but we'd like to get someone as a subject matter expert to do a train the trainer, maybe a train the trainer to a train the trainer for Rolang, because we've got one of the local coding academies committing to building a Rolang and an RChain curriculum. So we want to get it as direct as possible. I know, Greg, your schedule is insane, but your recommendation on who that should be would be ideal. And that's it.
Awesome. Any questions on that update from the community? Lawrence, I can work with you after the call.
Cool.
Probably not until Saturday before I can get you some names, because I'm traveling pretty extensively.
I appreciate it. All right, I'll reach out. Cheers.
So, sounds good. All right, moving right along. Let's hear from Reflective.
Hi, everybody. This is Greg. I'll try to get through this update. We've got a lot, so I'll blow through this as quick as I can. One thing that I was remiss in our last update to tell everybody that our newest team member, Rebecca Comagese, is the office manager and executive assistant for us at Reflective. We are so excited to have her. So if any of you have had a hard time getting hold of us or tracking this down, she's the one. She can do it, and she's running that office. And speaking of the office, I encourage everybody to come down. It's looking more and more like a space when I see more RChain community members, and specifically RChain Co-op executive team down there hosting and holding meetings. So it's actually working. What we had planned to do is working. We're going to have our 3rd event hosted next week, within the first 2 weeks of our office opening. So it's awesome. So come down to Pioneer Square and check us out. Jumping into an event, we have official RChain Reflective Deal Day is happening next week, Friday the 27th. Greg's going to be one of the panelists. We've got Deanna from the community is going to be on there as a panelist. We've got a couple of other VCs on there. Alex Ortiz from Life ID is going to be one of the panelists. We've got 6 fantastic companies that we're still narrowing it down. So anybody that's still looking to potentially present, we still have another day. We're closing those off tomorrow, but please enter. You've got some tough competition is all I can say ahead of you to make the cut. So it's going to be great. And of course, Christian's going to be there live streaming everything. So that's with Deal Day. Again, next Friday, the 27th, at our office in Pioneer Square from 11 to 2. And you can go to our website and RSVP as well, because I know seats are almost full for that. So please register as quick as you can. Steve Lee and David are over in Korea right now and headed to China as well, doing events, but also working on the validator side that I know Greg's going to talk a little bit about further. I won't get into wasting everybody's time with talking about the huge prospect pipeline that we have. I'd rather talk about 3 of the deals that we just signed and they're all coming from Harvard and MIT from our trip that we talked about from last month, I guess it was. And I've got Shahan, looks like he's in the Reflective office there, to jump on and talk real quick about the 3 deals that we just inked. Go ahead, Shahan.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, so a couple weeks back, we made that announcement with the Harvard Undergraduate Blockchain Group. During that talk, we had the Harvard Social Impact Expo, and I got to meet three amazing companies that were able to sign yesterday. And all these different companies have a mix of Harvard and MIT. We're building a really strong presence in Boston. The first one is called Translo. And then Translo is a powerful platform for sharing biomedical data in a decentralized, secure, efficient, and permissioned manner. And so if you think about different clinical trials that these different researchers have to go through, it's difficult to share that information, difficult to share that clinical trial information with a bunch of different doctors all over the world or researchers all over the world. They've created a really cool solution where somebody from Mass General Hospital, one of the researchers, quit his job, saw this problem, has worked with multiple different hospitals like Brigham and Women's in Boston, as well as some hospitals in China as well, to share all this data, and that will be their first MVP that they're going to roll out. So we're really excited about that. The next one is called Encrypt, and it's a decentralized technology for censor-resistant journalism and media. So if you think about, and one of the co-founders of Encrypt is actually the president of the Harvard Undergraduate Blockchain Group. They also have a couple other really strong members as part of the team. And what they're really trying to do is they all came from a very diverse background where they had these oppressive regimes, oppressive governments that censored a lot of the content and all of the media that was going out. So this technology is really awesome and a great way, a great innovation where different countries, different organizations, different journalists from all around the world are able to use this technology to get the media out there without any censorship from any major government organization or even social media type platforms. And then the final one is called Hello Friend, and they're a decentralized social media company. Actually, this is something that is right in my wheelhouse, something I love and I want to get behind. And different than other social media companies, it's not connecting people digitally. It's actually using blockchain and incentivizing different users to meet with each other in real life. And there's incentives to host a party or host an event, and you as a partygoer also can be rewarded for attending these events and meeting all these different people. So it's kind of flipping social media on its head and bringing people together actually in real life. So we're really excited with those announcements. And then the final thing is we've launched a podcast series as well. Megan Nab is here. We did a podcast with her from Veriledger, Alex Ortiz. We did one with Hello Friend and Translo. One thing we want to do in the future, just to make the announcement here, is I want to interview different community members as part of the RChain community and see what they're up to. And that's really all the updates I have on my end.
Can I talk here? Is the mic on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Megan?
I also just wanted to plug an event next week that is being hosted here at the Reflective offices. Women in Blockchain Meetup will be here at 6:30 on Wednesday, and I will be talking about the relationship between tokens and blockchains. So if you're in the Seattle area, please come down.
Awesome.
Sweet. This is incredibly exciting. These are wonderful companies to hear about. I enjoy the spirit in each one of them. As Shahan, you may or may not know, I've worked with a group that spun out of Amgen. They worked inside Amgen for quite some time. That are all they're using formal methods, including the pi calculus and other process algebraic techniques, to get formally verified individualized dosing regimes for a variety of substances that therapeutic substances. And they've spun out, and one of the things that they need is a delivery mechanism for clinical trials, collecting the data from patients.
Hey, Greg, is there any way you can get me connected to that team?
I absolutely can. I know the principles quite well.
I'm not sure if you're on mute.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Ah, that's weird. Can anyone?
Yeah, we can all hear you.
We can all hear.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay, great. Yeah, so I'll absolutely get you connected with the principals. My biggest contact is Alan Brown, who's an extraordinary logician, and worked with me on BizTalk and Microsoft. before, and we had crafted a whole approach to healthcare that involved the kinds of techniques that we're seeing here with RChain and the blockchain. And Alan pursued that inside Amgen until they were ready to spin out and stand it up on its own 2 feet. So I'll definitely get you in contact. Very good.
Thanks, Greg.
Yeah, absolutely. This is very exciting news. Okay. Any questions about the reflective stuff?
I think that Dan Connolly is also in contact with Reflective. If there's a need for connection, let me know. But he's also working on privacy and sharing of medical data.
Very good. That's awesome. Okay, so several updates organizationally. First of all, I want to congratulate all those that were involved in creating RChain Europe. RChain Europe had its inaugural meeting on Friday at 6 a.m. Pacific time, and elected its board. And took care of a few items of business that are necessary to go and do the registration process. And then today we had a follow-up meeting to address standing up the website, getting a bank account, all the usual things that you normally expect with a business, including cooperatives. And we're off and running. So. Based on the response from the auditor, we fully expect that RChain Europe will pass the registration process and be an official German Genossenschaft by Archon 3. So again, a big kudos to everyone, especially Ela Kegel and the whole Supermarkt team who helped us with the navigating this process, and to everyone else, Kate and Lily and Kenny, Deanna, all the people that were involved in the process. A really big shout out to you. This is exciting news, and it's our first step towards being jurisdictionally robust. So I'm very, very excited about that. Any questions about RChain Europe from the community? We are a lively bunch these days. Okay. Go ahead.
I have a question, Greg. In association with RChain Europe, Tim has been putting together this governance conference for December, and there might be some conflicts in timing between launch and hopefully that'll get straightened out so that people can attend both.
Yeah, it would be awesome if the timing works out. That would be great. We're pretty fixed on our launch date. So.
What are the dates of the governance conference?
That's December 7th through 9th, and any coordination would be appreciated.
Okay, so the dates for the next one, I believe, are going to be earlier than that.
Good.
There's not an overlap.
Very good. Thank you. Excellent. So then moving right along, we now have, thanks to Nash's hard work, we have a draft prospectus for validator business, and we will be holding a focus group the week that I return. So I get back on Saturday, and then the week, the 21st, and then somewhere near the 26th, 27th time frame, we will be holding a validator focus group. We've already got several candidate validators lined up to give us feedback on the prospectus, which will be just enough time to have it ready for August, where we pull out an aggressive campaign to get validators signed up through testnet. So we'll be looking for, the door is still open for validators. candidates who want to participate in the focus group, please message me directly, and we will. I'll coordinate with everyone to make sure that this happens. But we're very excited now. We have a lot of extremely strong interest. The financial depth, as well as the credentials of the people and organizations and institutions that are coming forward, is very, very encouraging. And this is exactly the kind of response that we need to make sure that the network is secure. We can't let up. We have to make sure that there are as many different kinds of agents, from individuals to organizations and institutions, as possible, so that the network is genuinely secure. But that I'm very encouraged with the response so far, and really looking forward to the focus group. Any questions about the validator focus group, or where we are with respect to the work on securing validators for the network?
Hey, Greg, this is Chris from Life ID. What's the best way to message you? Is your Discord?
Just put everything in Discord. I'm kind of slow on Discord, but I will get to everything, and that's a promise.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Sure.
Greg, I know there's a difference between COM events as transactions and blocks. Are transaction fees collected on COM events, or just in a like collections in blocks?
They're collected on COM events, but we can verify that by looking at the cost model. So we can go through that in a lot more detail in another session where we go through the cost model.
Excellent.
Yeah, no, great question. Great question.
How close is that to being published publicly?
Meta, where are we on the specs for the cost model?
So we're actually implementing just the straight up cost accounting right now in the interpreter. So that will provide a mechanism to keep track of costs. And then after that, we are going to start having some more economic discussions about how much things are actually going to cost. And we will come out with any algorithms and or cost table of costs. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it certainly does. And it's the right approach. So when do we feel that we'll be ready to have the cost table discussion?
We could start having those discussions, I want to say probably within about a month from now. I'd like to focus on getting testnet out.
Yeah, understood. Okay, great. So that gives people a feel for how things are shaping up there. Thank you very much. Any other questions on this topic or the validator the validator sign up process? Great. So I'm moving right along. Then we're rolling out a process. I think with the governance forum, we surfaced a lot of good information regarding some of the communication and coordination issues that the cooperative faces, and there was a generally positive response to Ian Kendrick's presentation at the brunch. At the end of or completion of the governance forum. So I was very pleased and excited by that response. And so we've been working extensively with H3 Uni to do a follow-up and roll out a process that will hopefully take the communication and coordination within the cooperative and the RChain community at large up a notch. I know that there's been some skepticism with respect to the presentation that Tony Hodgson gave at the governance forum, and I want to assure those. Well, first of all, thank the skeptics for their feedback, and assure them that a lot of the work that Tony's done. By the way, Tony holds both a PhD. I can't remember which university he holds his PhD from, but also a degree in chemistry from Imperial College. So he has sort of some of the highest academic credentials you can imagine. He's very well published in the field that he's worked in. And both he and Ian Kendrick have worked at the highest levels in software development from companies including Shell and Fujitsu and many others. So while Tony sort of experimented with some far out ideas for the governance forum, he also has plenty of chops when it comes to organizational development and communications. And just wanted to mention to people that the protocol that H3Uni has designed for this process is actually derived specifically from the use of polytopes to organize and orchestrate communications. And it is directly connected to the work that Matthew Hennessy and Eric Goubot have done in applying algebraic topology to the design of communication protocols for computer programs. The protocol has some wonderful properties in the sense that it's non-hierarchical, it's inclusive, it's transparent, and at the end of it, you get the sort of an organized approach to making sure that all the voices are heard and all of the issues are surfaced, and all of the issues and their relationships are surfaced in an efficient and constructive manner. So I was actually quite impressed with the design of the protocol that they're rolling out for this process. Really appreciate a lot of the both positive and skeptical feedback that we've gotten. But I want to assure people that this is a well thought out and tested set of methodologies that they're employing here. They've used it on they've used it on fairly large groups, including governmental agencies that have been aimed at sustainability at some of the highest levels within the European government agencies. So I'm delighted. I spent a good deal of time with Ian and Tony, which was why I was in Scotland. And tomorrow I meet with the H3Uni Board of Trustees to talk about a little bit more about the process they're about to roll out and other the relationships between H3Uni and RChain. So more on that, but let me stop and see if there's any questions or comments or observations about that work.
Greg, it's Rudy. I am really excited that we're doing this. That's all I want to say about it. This is one thing I'm looking forward to for sure.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Rudy. I am too. I think, whenever we have, in any organization like ours, especially one that's undergoing just the kind of enormous growth that we're undergoing, there's always going to be issues with respect to communication and coordination, and seeing, being proactive about that kind of stuff, I believe is really important for a functional organization. So that's part of what makes me really delighted that we're able to kind of take the bull by the horns and be proactive about this stuff.
Hey, Greg, would you be able to drop some links in the Discord for literature on those protocols?
I absolutely can. Yes, indeed. Yeah, it's fascinating to me that they come the angle by which Tony and Ian have approached these is from Stafford Beer's work, so I can point you to those. And Stafford Beer used the polytopes, but was unaware that Goubot and Herlihy had been using higher order automata, which is effectively a use of polytopes, to design protocols. So there's a kind of convergence happening, which was really, really staggering. I was stunned when they pulled out an octahedron and started talking about how they were using the geometry of the octahedron to design the protocol. And I looked at them sideways and I said, "Do you know that this is has foundations in work on the use of algebraic topology for the design of protocols?" So it was really a meeting of minds. All right. Just in case anything happens, I'm at about 2% on my phone. I'm walking back to a power supply. But if I drop off for a bit, that's because that's what's happening. My battery seems to have a short life these days. Okay, so we've talked about that. Validator updates, H3 Uni updates, and on to RChain. So I have some updates, and so Kelly and Meta and Peter Harris and Ayla Kegel and I met and discussed making sure that we integrate well with, because Ayla and Peter are boots on the ground, that we integrate well with the scene that's going on in Berlin. So we had a lot of good stuff come out of that, including directly addressing issues around the pricing and making sure that we have the right kind of promo codes, which will foster engagement. One of the things I want to ask for, we're going to have a promo code called Ich bin ein Coder. And I'll be setting up a repo where people can submit pull requests for Rolang contracts as demonstration that they are, in fact, coders. So initially, we want a team of volunteers from the community who will review those and then ascertain whether or not these would-be coders are also eligible to be reviewers, in which case they also get additional discounts. So if you want to contact me on Discord about being a reviewer for that, then we can get you a discount on attendance at the conference. And then we can help sort of get a virtuous cycle going here for the Ich bin ein Coder badge to get a promo code. So please contact me about that. Another update on the RChain 3, we have secured the Adrian Ballou Power Trio and Echo Test to very, very high profile, exceptionally entertaining bands who will be coming to give a performance on either the 4th or the 5th. I don't remember the date. So this should be just incredible. I got a chance to see the Adrian Ballou Power Trio with a triple door in Seattle in, I think it was the end of 2017, or maybe the beginning of 2018. I can't remember, but they are just phenomenal. Adrian Ballou, as you may know, has played with David Bowie, King Crimson, the Talking Heads, and has several projects under his own name, and is quite excited about blockchain and quite excited about RChain. So we may have some future collaborations as a result of this engagement, and I'm looking forward to that. If we have people of this kind of stature engaged with RChain, it works to our advantage significantly. So with that, let me check and see if there are any questions about RChain 3. All right. I guess silence is golden here. So moving along, we have a very, very exciting announcement, which we will make at R3. And it's also related to music and audio, but that's about all I can say at this point. But it will be a demonstration of groundbreaking audio technology, and the performance of RChain. And I am so excited about this. What I can say is about this time last year, CryptoKitties was bringing the Ethereum network to its knees, and we will be demonstrating a remarkable audio experience directly.
Oh no, I really wanted to hear that.
I think he was going to say directly from the blockchain, or musicians.
Yeah, that's right.
Blockchain.
Yeah, so the audio data will reside on chain. So I am super excited about this. It's going to be. I guarantee you that when you experience this, it will be a world-changing experience. This is a watershed moment in audio, and I am absolutely looking forward to sharing this with everyone. So I wish I could say more, but I just can't say anything else. So I think that's it for all of our updates. Any questions about any of this?
I think we should do a weekly reminder to rock holders about the Rock Rev swap in December when we launch the mainnet.
Yep. That's exactly right.
So don't go to phishing sites. There's a page up at developer.rchain.coop/token swap that'll have authoritative information.
Yep. Thank you. Yes, it's very important.
While we have a few minutes on that note, October 24th will be the all members meeting in Seattle. It's a ways out, but not that far out, actually. We've already been getting questions about process for nominations and ballot initiatives. This year the goal here is to have all voting on chain. It will be on Ethereum since we don't have a live RChain just yet. But all those discussions are coming together pretty well right now. Everything is sort of defined by the bylaws, but the implementation is sort of up in the air. But we'll have more information about that coming soon. But just go ahead and mark your calendar right now for October 24th.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kenny. Great update. Any more updates from the community? Alan, did you want to talk about the bounty program?
If I could jump in real quick. Sorry, Alan.
Oh,
do you mind if I hop in with the quick marketing one?
Oh, please.
So,
I'm sorry. Yeah, please go for
it. Thanks. So for starters, Gervin has delivered a second round of logo concepts and styles associated with that. We'll be meeting tomorrow to finalize that feedback, and then we'll socialize it with the community. Feedback on the messaging hierarchy that we published. Dario and Kevin are working to consolidate that right now. We have a meeting later today. That will work to inform the new website that's going to be done before Archon. There was a couple blockers on the blog, otherwise it would have been up today, but we should have it done by the end of this week with some blog posts with that. And we are inviting any community members, if you have fun topics that you want to write about, to please submit them to, we'll have an email out when the blog goes live on how you can submit and get rewarded for publishing awesome content to our blog. On that note, I have none of it's finalized yet, but there's about four work streams hopefully definitely after like we're three more about some interesting collaborative learning type of developer education that we're trying to work out the details with a couple different groups on that, as well as kind of a typical developer evangelist role that will be attending conferences. We're working on, we have a huge list and working on prioritizing what conferences we'll sponsor and attend for the rest of 2018 and 2019. And then we'll start to think about curriculum design. So I know that Lawrence, you had mentioned that. If you want to sync with me on that, that'd be great, because we've laid some groundwork for that.
Sure thing.
But there is some details that need to be filled in that will require some,
Patrick, I'm going to cut you off there. You're cutting in and out so much that we're getting about. Patrick, we're getting you about 1/3 of, or every other bite of what you're saying. Yeah, you're cutting out seriously. Yeah. So if you want to, no worries. If you want to type up some of the updates into the chat next week, hopefully the audio connection will be a little more stable. Okay. With that, Alan, do you want to give a bounty update?
I have some sad news. HJ is currently under observation. He may have a condition called glioblastoma. You can look it up in Wikipedia, but it's an aggressive kind of tumor. We don't know yet. There's not a final diagnosis, but we all have our thoughts with HJ at this time.
Thank you for that update. Yes, our hearts and minds go out to HJ at this time.
In terms of the bounty system, I will post a link to a document that actually, Greg, you asked me for twice already. And we're not still there with regards to metrics for the bounty system, but we've gone backwards a little bit and talked about purpose. And the interesting thing about purpose is the purpose of the cooperative and how close governance is and cooperation at scale. So cooperation at scale and governance are both mentioned in terms of the cooperative. And they're really two halves of the same thing, because they're all about working for mutual, working together at large scale. One more quick announcement. Jonathan and Will Chu noted that it was difficult for the RAM meetings because we have people all around the earth. And so now we have 2 meetings offset by 12 hours. The first meeting of the Asian group took place on Monday or Tuesday, depending on what time zone you're in. And I think this is an indicator for the future of how we need to work 24/7.
Awesome. No, I really appreciate that. Yes. I mean, the nice thing about having community members all around the globe is that we get to follow the sun, right? There's always somebody in RChain that's up and awake and ready to engage. So yeah, that's a really good point. Jonathan, are you up to giving an RChain Singapore update?
Yes, sir. Had to find my unmute mic. So Alan indicated that there's now an RChain Asia community meeting, and it's not actually going to be a RAM meeting per se. It's going to be more like a weekly debrief on the US-EU side. And Will, Q and Mervyn Ching are the moderators for that. And there's been a tremendous amount of interest from validator pools in Malaysia and China. So we're going to be having meetings with them, and I'm thrilled that the specs and the focus groups are going to be happening so that we can get them. Like Eastern Washington, Malaysia has a huge amount of hydropower, which is one of the reasons why it's such a hotbed for validators. I think I'll leave it at that for now. There's the RChain Asia meeting is going to be very, very successful and will really help surface the approximately 5,000 RChain people in this region and get them and start surfacing what they're doing to RChain Europe and RChain North America. So I'll leave it at that for now.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jonathan. So I also wanted to make a shout out to the community. We're going to need a lot of help on the ground. To anyone who is in Berlin, if they can help with that. We really want to get the word out about Archon 3, and in particular, we're going to be reaching out to members of high level members of the other sort of blockchain 3.0 efforts. And so if anyone has contacts into those, and we have our own contacts, but just in case we can't get through those channels, if anyone has contacts, I'll give a list of I'll publish a list of the groups or projects that we would like to have participate as panelists. And I would love to get some community support or help to try to make sure that those panelists could engage, or someone from those communities could engage. All right, I think that's it. Surprisingly, we have 8 minutes left, and I think we've covered all the updates. Is there anything else we need to talk about?
Yeah, I actually have a few questions about membership and how I guess you would say European and Asian communities are represented, because this is a co-op in Washington. So I guess my question is, if we have this explosion of new, I can't call them members because I guess it's a legal term. How will those people be represented? Are they going to have to start their own organizations like we are in Germany? And what does that really mean in terms of liability as we get closer and closer to launch? Because we have like 10,000 people in the QQ chat. Well, none of them are members, right? Except for maybe Will or 2 or 3. I mean, I don't know. I mean, these are just concerns I have, because once you start pulling in people from Malaysia and Vietnam and Japan, and there's no, you understand what I'm saying? There's no legal framework there, right? So where does that put the co-op in terms of its clients and all that?
Yeah, no, thank you for that. That's exactly one of the motivations for why we're setting up regional cooperatives, and then relationships amongst those regional cooperatives with each other. So it's a kind of federated system of co-ops to be able to handle that. Of course, people who want to become members, as we've already seen, people who from the Far East or from Europe or from Africa or anywhere in the world who want to become a member of RChain US are free to do that. Likewise, US citizens are free to become members of RChain Europe, and hopefully RChain Singapore gets launched in the not too distant future, and they could become members of that. So we really want to interlock and overlap to support that, but also we want to capitalize on local knowledge, local know-how for handling local issues. So I know that's a fairly high-level answer, but I hope you see where I'm going with this.
Yeah, I see the federated system, and I'm sure we're all working towards that. I guess I would say as we get, it gets more complex where we're representing different groups. I brought this up to Jonathan the other day when we were on the call with the Asia community. Like, it's like, well, how many people? We're saying we have representation in Asia, but mostly it's the Chinese community represented. It's like you have to be very careful what we say. Okay, we're like, it's the same thing with RChain Europe. Like right now, it's a German cooperative. Like, how many French people do we have represented? You know what I mean? So it's
yes, but actually, the chair of the managing board is UK.
Okay, UK. Okay.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and I've already reached out to a French national with whom we are doing a project.
Right. I'm just saying. I guess the point is, it's like when we say someone's representing the community, it's like, do we actually have representation from that community? And then also, member is a legal term, right? With co-op, I think Ian brought that up as well on Monday night's call. So when we say someone's a community member, what do you really mean by that? Are they a paid member of the co-op, or are they just in the Discord channel? Like, is a community member someone who's actively contributing to the project for like 5 hours in a social way? You know what I'm saying? So it's just like getting more granular with the definitions to keep all the legal liability clear when something goes wrong. You know what I mean?
You're absolutely right, and that granularity is precisely why we want to set up the federated system, so that we can address those issues and direct people to the right organizations, right? So you become a member of RChain US on purpose. And you become a member of RChain Europe on purpose because there are specific reasons to engage in that community.
Right. I also think it would be helpful if the board would help divvy up the regions, because like East Africa is not part of Asia, I don't think. Right. So we don't want someone saying like, well, I'm part of the Asia community. It's like, well, where are you at? Are you in Europe? Okay, well, that's not the Asia. It's like, well, I'm a paid member of the Asian cooperative. Okay, does that count? So it's like, when we have the federated system, where there has to be also some bounds at somewhere where someone can fit into the picture, because if it's just like completely loose, then it's like, okay, then it's completely loose. You know what I mean? Or if that is the goal, we just need to be clear, because like governance has to keep pace with the tech development is what I'm saying.
Christian and Greg, I have a comment here. There's been a certain amount of what Peter Moorman calls siloing. We don't want to end up with a situation where we have RChain just replicating traditional geographical boundaries. We don't want RChain to be RChain US and RChain Germany and RChain Ecuador, because it's not. I mean, RChain is different than that. So
yes,
I think that's a consideration we need to keep in mind.
That's correct. And in fact, that's like, if you look at the details of the design of the relationship between RChain US and RChain Europe, the design of the relationship is such that even though they're independent organizations, they need each other. So the remit, the economic reason for being for RChain Europe is to build on-chain governance tools, including an identity solution for all the RChain federated co-ops, as well as the ability to capture and express sentiment and will. So sentiment is things like likes and thumbs up and all those kinds of things on social media, and will is things like votes or commitments to execute. But those kinds of things, on-chain tools for those things, can't exist without a chain. So RChain US is delivering the chain, and it's very difficult to have a chain without proper governance, and it's very difficult to have proper governance without good on-chain tools. So there's a.
I'd also be just sorry to cut you off, Greg, but like, isn't siloing something to do with like the corporate realm, where departments like don't talk to each other and become highly specialized? It has nothing to do with like, okay, this is Asia on the map, we can fly to Asia, and this is like the Asian community. Like, I don't understand what that means by siloing. Like,
no. There are different ways that siloing can happen, right? Different cultures, whether they're geographic or otherwise, can become insulated and insular. And what we're attempting to do is to design these relationships so that there's a natural mixing that happens as a result of their interdependency. So it becomes impossible for them to silo because they have to talk to each other because they need each other to get work done.
Okay, but in terms of just understanding who I'm talking to at the end of the day, like there still has to be formal definitions. I'm still going to call them regions. Like we have all the Asian like population represented in RChain. They come to a community meeting every Monday night. Like, what do you want to call that?
So my particular view of that is that I think that should be called Community Brief plus 12 because it's characterized by the time zone and not by the citizenship or jurisdictional affiliations of the people, in my opinion.
People use different time zones, though. Anyways, I just thought this was interesting because I think what there needs to be a resolution from the board on how this is either way, it's still got to be cut up so people understand how they can interact with the project, where they can go. Like there has to be formal definitions for all this stuff. And the RChain Europe is the first extension, right? Formal extension of the US co-op, right? So this is an experiment, but I just thought that bringing it up would be important going forward.
Yeah. Yes, you're absolutely right, and we're sort of working on this. But I do hope that people understand that.
Uh-oh.
Okay, I think Greg dropped. All right, there we go. He's come back.
Yeah, sorry about that. As we talk about organizational scaling, there has to be both specialization, differentiation, and integration. Again, biological metaphors are perfect here. Right? Within a human body, there's a differentiation between the heart and the lungs, and yet they must also work together in order to make a whole body. Likewise, there's a differentiation across species, and yet these species work together to knit a whole ecosystem. So differentiation and integration are essential to organizational scaling. And what we're aiming to do is to make sure that we design these relationships to support that. And on that note, I apologize to everyone. This is such a fascinating discussion, but I really have to jump off to another meeting. So thanks to one and all. And I really look forward to
real quick question. If I'm working on identity and governance, do I also join the EU cooperative in order to do that work?
If you want that work to be delivered back to the RChain community, it's a good idea.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, I gotta go. Ciao, guys. Onward and upward.
Thank you.
Is everybody leaving slowly? One.
I usually just close the room and everyone drops.
It's kind of sad, really.
Yeah, the meeting is formally an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, well, Cody, are you there?
He's muted. He needs to unmute.
Yeah.
So.
1 second. I'm not off air yet.
Okay.